Diversity. It's all around us. Step into the University of Minnesota, and immediately you'll be surrounded by a plethora of different people from diverse backgrounds, and moreover, a multitude of cultural and multicultural student groups that support and promote this thriving population in the heart of the campus. It is truly hard to believe that back in the 1950s, there were hardly any organizations that stood for this purpose. But change was destined. In 1952, Joseph Meschenhauser initiated MISA, one of the most prominent student organizations that promote diversity on campus. But when did it start? Let's go back to the beginning.
My basic philosophy was that we needed to have some infrastructure to work with. And one of them was to create a student organization. Another one was to create a community organization. So on the community level, I helped organize the Minnesota International Center, which dates to 1952 or 53 or something like that too. Maybe we needed to also organize the international students. So the big problem, that came about was really a conflict. In other words, MISA was born out of conflict. The Cold War was one of the sources of that. But then we had major fights between the Arabs and the Israelis. It really got almost violent, people were pushing each other and so on, and also between Indians and Pakistanis at that time, it was 1950s, the middle 50s or something. So I had a friend in Brainerd, where we had been sending students on what we call the international embassies. Always took a busload of people and went to some community in the state for a weekend. And so I called him up one time and asked if it would be okay for him to facilitate a meeting of the international students only without involving the community. So we did go, and there was probably about 45, 50 people from this. We had, by that time, we must have had about 15 nationality groups on the campus.
The meeting was the beginning of the International Student Council, the origin of MISA. The council was noticeably different from the MISA we see today.
The feature of the Foreign Student Council was that it was just organization of organizations, no individual membership. So the organizations essentially dominated, the scene. The second feature was that they voted against involving American students in it. So it was strictly foreign student club. And it created a problem eventually, which is then what led to the creation of MISA. But MISA was created for many other reasons, because most of the students were not happy with just the organization, so they wanted individual membership as well. So essentially it was open to any student of the university.
There's more here than meets the eye. MISA's creation was not merely to establish a gathering place for international students. Michael Page has dedicated a large part of his life in studying cultural adaptations of international students. According to Professor Page, the environment within MISA is a great place for students to learn the unique skill sets that they cannot find anywhere else. The time the students spend discussing about cultures, politics, diversity will result in a higher critical thinking skill.
Well, I should frame it by saying this. Joe Mestenhauser and I were both really interested in MISA as a forum for leadership development. Mm-hmm. And that was a big deal for him. It was a big issue for me. We felt it was an opportunity for those that were in MISA to really transcend a lot of the, whatever their background is, that this is, rather than being parochial, this was a chance to really create a global leadership set of skills and opportunities to help negotiate some really difficult things at times that that could happen out there in the international student community, and to grow. And so that was kind of my take on it, and coming into it was that if we could do something along those lines and just have conversations from time to time, or do little things here and there that would help keep the idea that this is an opportunity to be a leader, and being a leader means being more than a nationalist. Although there's that component in it too, but you're not at home, you're here, and you're working with people from other countries other than your own. Our Palestinians and Israelis, for example, going to interact with each other, and when they're off, when they're away from their own place. And I remember one of Dr. Messenhauser's messages, and mine too, was this is a chance to maybe have conversations with people that you cannot have in your home countries. It's a very unique and special opportunity. Take advantage of it.
We now turn to the members of MISA themselves to see if, from their perspective, students truly developed intellectually as a result of being a part of MISA. Arun, who was a former board member of MISA in 1988, fondly admits that the time that she spent with MISA has truly inspired her to pursue international education as a career.
Actually, being in MISA inspired me to go for the career that I have. So I evolved into international education, and then I studied as an academic, and then I studied for my dissertation. I'm studying international teams. I've always been fascinated by, ever since I was in MISA, of what does it take to make an international team work well together. And then it's been a very central question to my life. And so it all started here.
What MISA could do was provide a community, a place to go because one of the other problems is you can feel culturally isolated. One of the things we now know more clearly from the research is that cultural isolation is particularly acute if there isn't anybody from your home country. You're kind of by yourself. But even then, you can still feel a sense of isolation, even if you have others who have come with you. And to just stay in your own cultural pocket itself can be problematical, because then you're not meeting other people. And MISA was a chance to, in a kind of a more or less safe and comfortable environment, to find a community, a support group, if you will, people to talk to and hang out with. And I found from some research I've done in recent years that interacting with other international students when you're abroad is very, very supportive of developing your intercultural skills and feeling a sense of comfort about the place. And almost like a bridge to then saying, okay, now we can reach out and meet Americans, because there's always this, a little bit of anticipation both on the side of U.S. students and the internationals. How do we meet each other? And there are all sorts of little stereotypes people have about each other. And we did research on that a long time ago and found out that, if you created opportunities for students to come together, in point of fact, they would come together. And one of those opportunities was a place like MISA, which even beyond an international, like a nationality club, was a different kind of a place, because the nationality club is still, okay, you've got your own agendas, and the thing you're talking about what's going on in there. That's great. But MISA was a place where you could also meet others, including some U.S. students who were involved in it. It wasn't exclusively international students. I mean, it was a place that was, although it was primarily international students, it was a place where you could go and meet.
You work here. You are here all the time. This becomes sort of a home away from home. And so this is your living room. And this is where you have conversations with people. And so this is where you can have very personal, deep-level conversations with people from very different cultures. And so then you start to understand why they perceive the world the way they do, and why perceiving the world the way they do is actually very valuable. And so that you understand that perspective. And so after the conversation, night-long conversations, you have, 40 different perspectives on the same issue. And you wouldn't have that in any classroom, because there's no time for conversations. But I did an international relations as a minor, and so, we would be talking about issues of development or something like that. And sitting here with people from those countries that we were reading about and talking about in class, gave me a perspective that I could put straight into my papers, pointed me to research the issues that I was writing about in many different ways than I would have if I had just the academic angle on it. So that was incredibly valuable. So I would have long nights here with people that I really did not understand why they thought about the world the way they did. But after long hours of this, and many times you start realizing that their perspective comes from a very deep level of understanding the world, and that's why they do the things that they do. And it's a very important understanding.
Over the years, MISA became a crucial factor which helped international students adapt to their new environment. But cultural adaptation was only one of many difficulties that MISA helped eliminate. Coming to an American university, international students have a great chance to learn real-life skills besides merely academic knowledge. How to tactfully persuade people, how to organize an event, how to balance budget for an organization are some very valuable skills that international students cannot acquire in class.
I would apply for jobs after my graduation here, and I knew that there would be 200 and some people who applied, and I was always interviewed. And I got most of the jobs that I applied for. And it was because I had worked in MISA, I understand that the world is bigger than me, I understood the issues of the world, I understood how to operate within it. I also had a magazine that I had edited, 3 magazines under my belt by the time I graduated. And it was quite an accomplishment. And so when you are in a pool of 200, you rise to the top quickly. So I was always one of the 3-4 people that they interviewed. Didn't get every one of those jobs, but I got most of them. And so, these are good experiences.
Coming up next, Joseph Meschenhauser reveals the history of Feast of Nations, the biggest event of MISA up until now. Jose Velasquez talks about the mural wall in the MISA room. MISA presidents address the concern about international students and local student collaboration. Follow us on YouTube and find us on Facebook.